Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. Thanks for joining. Super excited today. We've got a great topic lined up and we're going to be talking about how to generate more engagement on Facebook. And if you haven't noticed already, we've got a special guest today, Helen Reynolds, who you should be able to see on the screen. Hi Helen.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today. Before we get started, just a couple of really little things. Everyone's on mute just to cut down on the background noise, but we really welcome your questions today for this session. So you should be able to see in the little sort of go to webinar panel, there's a questions box. So please, at any time, just type your question in there, and we should have a bit of time, maybe like as we go through the session or at the end, just to pick up those questions, and we'll answer as many as we can. We might not be able to do as many. As we might not be able to do all of them. So yeah, thanks for joining. If you're not familiar with CrowdControlHQ, welcome. You can see on the slide here, this is not a sales pitch, but a little bit about CrowdControlHQ is that we're a social media management software platform. We're UK based, and we support many organisations across the UK with their social media marketing and communications, social customer service, social media compliance, if that's something that your organisation is interested in. And something that makes us a little bit different from perhaps other tools is that we're dedicated to the UK, and we have a fantastic UK customer support and services team. And on the next slide, you'll see some of the organisations that we work with today. So we work with many public sector and private sector organisations to support them with their social media requirements. So yeah, that's enough about CrowdControlHQ. I'm really excited to get into the main content of today's session, which of course is why Helen is joining us today. So Helen, I'm going to pass it over to you to get stuck in.
Lovely, thank you very much. Good morning. Today we're talking about engagement on Facebook, and it's one of those things that people ask me huge amounts of questions about, because Facebook is such a hard place for lots of organisations to get engagement on. So hopefully today we'll give you a little bit of kind of inspiration and a few tricks and tips that you can put into action straight away after our session. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Hel Reynolds. I just go with my Twitter name. I'm Helen Reynolds, but I go with Hel because then you might follow me on Twitter. I train mainly public sector communications people in how to communicate better, but particularly in social media, because this is an area that I've spent a long time in my career kind of progressing. And I started out in Monmouthshire Council, started out as a press officer, moved my way around comms, ended up being in charge of the website and the social media and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm a real practitioner. So much as I love to train people and inspire them to get the best out of their teams, I still keep my hand in, and I do know the problems that you face. And actually, some of the things that crop up with communicators, and I suffer some of the challenges that we face as well, I'll put them into cartoons, and I find that's a really nice visual social media way to kind of start discussions about the things that we experience as communicators. So I do little cartoons as well, and if you've seen those, hello, thank you for looking at them. And I'm on Comms Cartoons on Twitter and commscartoons.com. You'd think I'd know that website off by heart. I like to think that I'm a nana of public services social media. I started out in Monmouthshire Council using MySpace for a project that was to restore a town hall. And I feel like if you were there in the MySpace days, you're pretty much an old dude of the subject. And I feel like everything that I've done, I've learned through experience. You can get loads and loads of tips and tricks from training, but sometimes you've just got to experiment and try these things out. So I really encourage you to try things. Okay, so enough about me. Thank you to CrowdControl for hosting this today. Thank you very much. I'm going to go through some stuff with you, but if you find any of it interesting and you want to tweet, the hashtag is there, socialcrowdfb, and I'd love to hear from you, so tweet me at any point as well, and obviously ask some questions. I'll start with one of my cartoons. This is why I'm here. We'll find often with Facebook that you kind of put out the stuff that seems to work and has worked for many years, and you'll find that your audience is just scrolling past it, and you get this awkward silence, and what you're left with is tumbleweed on your Facebook page, and it's like a big ghost town. And then as communicators, we have busy jobs, and we often just keep doing the same thing and wondering why it's not working. But something has to change, and we have to get a bit smarter and a bit better about how we understand what our audiences want from us on Facebook. So that's a little bit about what we're going to discuss. What we're going to do today is like a taster version of a new course that I've got, which is about making creative content. So on that course, we look at 5 principles of engagement, 10 types of content for getting easy engagement on social media, and making quick videos, copywriting for social media, and telling good stories. So this is a taster session for that. And we're going to look at 3 of the content types for easy engagement that I thought would be a really useful starting place for us to talk about on this webinar. So it might not make any sense at the moment, but what we're going to have a look at today is nostalgia content, wow and what the content, and content. So that doesn't make any sense when I say it like that, but it will all become apparent.
I think you dodged that F letter like very well, by the way. Yeah.
So I held it in. Yes. What we're talking about today is tactics. I also do a lot of work and a lot of workshops around social media strategy, and it's important before we start to think about, if you're getting engagement in audiences, the difference between an engagement strategy and an engagement tactic. We're talking tactics today. So if you do a really good, clear social media strategy, what you're talking about are immovable things. Your goals will never change, what you're trying to achieve. Your tone of voice and the way that you want to present yourself will never change. And the values of your organization and the values of your audiences, they're not going to change. But the tactics that we use to achieve the goals might well need tweaking and changing as you learn. So if you think that some of the tactics we talk about today are interesting and worth a go, have a go, but be prepared to kind of change it. If, oh, that thing works, so we'll do a little bit more of that, or this didn't seem to work so much, so we'll try a different tactic. The point about this is there's no right answer. Your audience is particular to your organization, and they will have different kinds of interests, and keep that kind of separation in your mind between what strategy is and what tactics are. I can't tell you today about what your tone of voice will be, what your goals are, but I can certainly give you some good tactics that will help you to get there. Those of you who run Facebook pages for your organizations, you might have in the back of your mind that Facebook pesky algorithm. And some people know more about the algorithm than others. A quick description of what happens on Facebook is you have a Facebook page, which is owned by an organization, and you might have 1,000 people liking your page, but 1,000 of your likers, the people that like your page, will not see your content every time you post. And you can get this really depressing kind of feeling where you post up onto Facebook, and then it'll show you how many people have seen it, and it'll say like 3 people have seen this post, and you're kind of like, why? But if everyone could see it, then they'd realize it was great. Why aren't they there? They're not there, but they are there. Facebook's just chosen not to share that piece of content with someone, and there's a lot of good reasons for why. So if you can imagine a piece of your post going up, if it gets lots of engagement, lots of clicks and shares and comments, Facebook makes a decision in its algorithm to say, you're doing quite well, this is healthy, we want people to engage with that. So the next time you share, you'll get a bigger audience for your post. So more of your likers will see it. But if you post and it shows to 5 of your audience your post and none of those people engage with it, Facebook decides that's not good content. You're not contributing to the experience of our users here. So next time when you post, instead of 5 people it'll show it to 3. It will punish you for having an unengaging post. So it's really important with Facebook to be engaging, not just because you've got things to do, but actually you get punished every time you do something that's not engaging. And I always say you have no obligation to be boring. You can be professional and be exciting and interesting. And we'll have a little look at how you can do that. much as I've just kind of discussed a bit about the algorithm and the way that Facebook shows content to people, nothing, no technique, trick, or hack that someone tells you will replace engaging content. If it's good, it will find its way to the right people. But good content has changed. Before, our kind of ideals as communications people for good content was it met the brief, it had a call to action, and it was professional. It was well written, or it was a beautiful filmed piece of work. Good content has changed. Actually, it hasn't. Good content has always been about something that your audiences care about. And it is impossible to get through to some of our colleagues in departments who aren't wrong sometimes and say, I know you think this is very interesting, but our audience won't find it interesting, because they feel like they've got a job to do and it's a really tough space. So maybe we'll come back to that theme afterwards, but it's got to be about content that your audience actually cares about. And in this new Facebook land, if there's one principle to remember, you're not broadcasting information anymore. It doesn't work. For those of you who don't have much engagement on your pages, you'll know just telling people what you want them to know doesn't work on Facebook. The only way to do this is to talk about things that people care about. And when you get a conversation going, you thread in your key messages through the conversation. You don't just go in there and announce your thing that you want people to know about. And again, this is covered much more in the course, but this is a general principle. The key thing I want you to kind of get through here is, if you're not getting engagement on your Facebook page, it's not your audience's fault. It's ours. It's up to us to take ownership and say, right, we're going to create things that people actually want to read and see and view and watch. So one thing to remember here, there are 32.3 million British people on Facebook the last time I checked. None of them want to read your press release. So at the moment, if you're putting your news, your press release news up onto Facebook, just stop, because that's probably a little bit over the top. If it's working for you, great, but I can guarantee you in most cases it is not. How many of you joined Facebook to read corporate press releases? I'm pretty sure you didn't. Nobody wants to talk about your organization. And when you get that into your strategy, when you kind of begin to build that into your content, it makes things a lot easier. Actually, I joined Facebook to see what my friends and family are up to tell them what I'm up to, and to read, watch, and talk about my interests. Now, I'll think about, because this is a public services session that we're doing today. So I'm going to think about my local council, who I don't work with, and they're just the council where I live. I don't like them on Facebook, because who likes their council? Some people do, but in general, I'm not an actively engaged citizen, I'm afraid to say, and most of my friends aren't. So what I do follow is the local leisure centre, because I want to see what events are going on, and I want to keep on looking at, I should be going to aerobics and I'm not, but I keep seeing that post, and it is good for my guilt complex to see it there. I want to see events that are going on in the area. I want to see anything that's particular to me. I don't have kids, so I'm not interested in schools, but my sister has kids and my brother do, so they'll be interested in the school's Facebook content. The point about this is it's separating it up. If you want to talk on behalf of an organisation, you need to talk about specific subjects that people care about, not about your organisation, because nobody cares about your organisation. I can't say it enough. So it's flipping it to, instead of talking about what you're doing, it's talking about what people are talking about now and happening to bring in what your contribution to that conversation is. So right, I'm going to bring you through some types of content that you can think about that will bring those conversations to your page, where you can start to bring in other conversations. And I'm going to kind of bring you through this with some good examples that I've seen that kind of illustrate the points that I'm making, those 3 points. And the first one is nostalgia. So here is a good example of a nostalgia post on Facebook from one of my favourite public sector organisations on social media. I am a nerd and I do have favourites, and I do kind of fangirl at a lot of stuff. NHS blood donation is one of my favourites. And this is a post that seems quite simple. So who remembers these? As the NHS turns 70 this week, we want to give a big birthday shout out to everyone who's given blood and saved lives over the years. And then they've put feeling thankful. So for a start, there is a tone to this that is much more about gratitude towards the blood donors than it is about, aren't we great because we've been doing this for 70 years. It's much more about who remembers this, and it's a thank you to them. So already it's less about them and more about the audience. But who remembers these? Now, lots of people won't remember them, but lots of people do. They know their audience. Their audience on Facebook is very likely to be someone who's given blood at least once. If you've given blood at least once, then you'll be interested in this. Oh my God, there are some people who have given blood all that time. It's an encouragement. It gives lots of people chances to have a conversation and show their identity as blood donors. Because if you're thinking about your audience, you know that they're probably quite proud of the fact that they contribute to society and help people by doing this. So you're giving them an opportunity to talk about themselves by sharing this. And what we do with the best posts on social media is provoke emotions and conversations. And the emotion here is pride. I have given blood. And you can see here that in the screen grab that I've done, I've kept my old ones. I'll be making my 125th donation a week tomorrow. Not bad for an 80-year-old. Hope to keep donating for a while longer. Well, that guy is proud, obviously. How much do his friends and family want to give him a little thumbs up and a little conversation? This is about him talking about himself. It's not about talking about the NHS. And nostalgia is a really great way to do this. Here's another example of nostalgia from a town council. Can anyone remember the Mayor of Kidsgrove, Fred Boyer, also known as the local barber? Please like and comment on our photographs to share your memories. This is another nostalgia thing. Now, obviously, we're talking about an older audience here with the nostalgia stuff, with these particular instances of it. And actually, that's great for Facebook because most teenagers hit about 16 and they don't really stay on Facebook very often. They only put up the things for their friends and family to see. So when you're 16, you want to go onto Snapchat and Instagram and talk to your mates about the things you talk about. And Facebook's basically a place where you say, I passed my driving test, and you say the things that you would say to your nan. So you'll find a lot more if you're trying to reach older people, Facebook's a brilliant place to do this. And this is a great example. So they shared this photo of Fred Boyer, and someone's put in the comments, his wife Hilda had a gift shop at the bottom of the stairs on the right. Not much she missed, lol. So giving someone an opportunity to show their local knowledge, to have a laugh at the local gossip, and people love to discuss their lives. This is what they're talking about, but they're talking about their lives in a particular area in this way, and their pride in where they live. And it doesn't have to be for this age group, because I don't know how old any of you that are watching are. I'm 37. I hate having to say that. I'm 37. Whenever I see anything on Facebook that's like and share, or do you remember going to TJ's in the 90s, and then someone will share a picture of a club that I used to go to when I was a teenager. I love that stuff. I can't get enough of it. And then I'll tag in my friends and say, oh yeah, remember that disgusting outfit you wore that time, or remember the time you were sick in a bucket, or whatever. Nostalgia is about getting people to talk about their lives and share memories with people. And if you can do that, then you will instantly get a crowd behind you. You'll get people to really engage with your page, but also see you as much more relevant in their lives. And okay, this doesn't possibly meet a direct goal for an organisation. It's not like they're promoting a service in any way. But there might be conversations that happen in the comments that you can go in and answer and say, oh yeah, well actually we've got a hairdresser's course coming up for young people that might be of interest, so spread the word. You can have conversations as part of it, but this is social media, not corporate media. So when you're social, you find a common interest with someone and you talk about that. When you're corporate, you just say, here's what I want you to know. And there's a really big difference. And this is why this kind of stuff works on Facebook, because it is a social place. Here's one of my favourites, a recent one, because I've been working with Pembrokeshire County Council, and we did a bit of a social media masterclass, and they were great. They had great ideas. One thing that we thought about with nostalgia, so they had a new school, or they have a new school dinner menu that they want to promote. And rather than just kind of saying, here is the new school menu, we thought about it from this nostalgia point. And actually they did. They came up with this. It was brilliant. And you can see here, they had 110 comments on this, which is quite a big deal for a new school menu. But what they could have done here was say, we've got a new school menu. And the point about school menus now is, and I know this from my nephew and nieces, you've got gluten-free options, you've got vegan options, you've got like hummus and delicious things on there. Whereas when I was a youngster, I had a tray that had holes in it, and they had some kind of various mush in each hole. So they kind of capitalised on this. So rather than promoting their menu straight off, they say, did you love pink custard? Ask for second helpings of a jam roly-poly. Have your mashed potato served using an ice cream scoop for that perfectly domed accompaniment to your roast dinner. Whether you love them or loathe them, everyone remembers something about the school dinners. What are your clearest memories? Now, if you click on that see more, they do go on to say about the menu. But you're much more likely to click on that see more because you've instantly engaged me on something that I actually can have a conversation and share an opinion about. I cannot share an opinion about a school menu. Even as a parent, I could, but I'm much less likely to. This is much more about my opinion, about my experiences, and nostalgia is a really good way to get people engaged with that. So have a dig through, think about the kind of, thinking back to the NHS, but what kind of icons, what kind of things have you had in your organisation that might well kind of dislodge a memory with someone? What photo archives have you got? Just bringing out a picture of a member of staff and a pair of flares and a big old handlebar moustache will get people talking. Like, did anyone have a moustache like this? That would do the trick. Here's so and so from whatever department. Or just try and think about things in terms of how people care themselves and the memories that they've got about something that you're trying to promote.
Really like the, sorry Helen, really love the pink custard reference because it just brings back memories for myself. I also had pink custard, and I also had that plastic tray that you talked about with the holes where, your main meal went in one hole, the pudding went in the other hole, and the drink went in the other hole.
Yeah, really, and isn't it irresistible to not think about your own experience with this? And all of us could possibly engage with that post in some way. Yeah. Okay, it might not be relevant. The school menu thing might not be relevant to all of us, but when we like and click and comment on it, one of our friends might well, who wouldn't have seen it, might well then see it, and it is relevant to them. And you're just kind of bringing many more eyes onto that piece of content, hopefully hitting more kind of people that you don't normally engage. But yeah, custard, man, bring it back. Where's it gone? So the next type of content that you might want to consider, the wow and the WTF moment. I call it this just because they're the things that we chat about in the office and see in our day-to-day that sometimes we forget. If it made us laugh, go wow, go what the, then possibly that's something that you can share with other people that they will also have the same kind of reaction to. So this is a great example from West Midlands Police, who also I'm a little bit of a fangirl of. So here they say, here's what we found when we were called to the burglary in progress today, and some dimwit has got himself stuck in a hole. This is classic social media, because when if you're building trust with your audience, and remember, social media, it's about relationships. You're building kind of communities of people who care what you're saying, who are interested in what you're up to. If you share the interesting things around the work that you do, they're much more likely to listen to the things that you want them to know about. So this is about kind of sharing a smile moment. The whole point of social media, I'm going to get my phone out here, you'll see people do this, scroll, scroll, scroll. It's because usually when we're using social media, we're just looking for a bit of distraction. We're just looking, I'm waiting for a bus, I'm waiting for someone to turn up to a meeting. I just want 2-3 minutes of a bit of distraction. This is perfect content for that. And it builds your brand. It makes people feel a little bit more like you're one of them and not just this kind of preachy organization. So I love this thing of, don't forget, if it makes you go wow, then it might make your audience go wow too. A nice example of this, Bradford Council. And maybe we do this stuff all the time, but you forget that it's good, engaging content, and it will often work, particularly if you're an organisation that works in a specific area, because people love to see things, to see photos and images and videos of the place that they live in. It makes them feel like they belong. So Bradford Council did this lovely kind of video that showed a forest of light that they had in the city park. And because it was a video, it just kind of gave a sense of the atmosphere. And if you'd have walked there and seen that, you would have gone, wow. So if you're anywhere and you go, wow, it's so quick and easy to grab your phone and get some footage. And again, 170 reactions to this piece of content is not bad. You know, loads of people would kill for that kind of content. And you can see lovely, encouraging kind of comments that they're getting from it. And if you want people to love the place that you live in, then you should really show that you love it first, because how can you expect that behaviour if you don't show it yourself? What a stunning weekend it was. Sounds like a human being said it. Brilliant. This one isn't a Facebook post, but it should be. I just couldn't find the Facebook equivalent of this, really. So this is a bit of a cheat on my part, but this is a tweet by a guy, and he says, here's my girlfriend Laura with nearly home after a 3.5-mile walk from the hospital after nearly 13-hour night shift because the roads were impassable. My contribution was limited to hot chocolate on arrival. How brilliant this was, not only for Ipswich Hospital, but also for the whole NHS, to show a picture of someone going beyond the call of duty. First of all, it's weather. My God, everyone talks about the weather in Britain. You're sorted if you're talking about the weather. But if you know someone who's made a particular effort, and if you could find a way to picture that, that is amazing. If someone comes into the office and they've got snow on their hat or they're sweating buckets, and you think, wow, we do such a great job here, share that stuff. That, you know, the hospital itself could have shared that, but obviously they were probably too busy doing work and dealing with other things. But if you can share these things, they really connect with people. What we're talking about here in the wow and WTF moments is connecting on a human level with someone else. Another good example of this from Wellington City Council. Who spotted the whale in the harbour this morning? If there's a whale in the harbour, find a picture of it and mention it. They managed to make this a little bit kind of wordy, and they talk about decisions. Actually, what they do really well here is to make it's engaging first of all, and then you've got some important information as you read through. But fantastic. Of course we want to see that kind of stuff. This is the kind of thing we go on Facebook for. But how often do you see it from organisations? You usually just see kind of, here's a service that we've got that you're going to love, or have your say on our thing. No one cares. Another wow moment. I mean, some of you might have seen this because it was just so funny. I can remember seeing it all over the place at the time. The Isle of Scilly police had seen that a school shed had been broken into, and the only clue that they had was a fried egg that was the front door on the grass. A hilarious post. Like, sometimes just the weirdness of life is worth sharing. Colin, who was the police officer who posted this, ended up becoming a bit of a celebrity, like a local celebrity, after posting this, because people just loved the fact that he saw the fun in the area that he was in. And those little stories sometimes they stay in the organisation and they never get shared, and they're the best things. If there are characters in your organisation who people love, those characters will be loved outside your organisation as well. And the last category that we're going to talk about today, the last one, awe. Anything that makes you go, oh, that's so cute. Witney Town Council had this thing where a child had sent a letter in to the mayor and said, I really would like to be a mayor one day. And instead of going, oh, that's nice, that's made us, that's quite sweet, they posted a picture of the letter up and said, isn't this great that like a young person is getting involved in democracy? Got a great reaction from it, so keep eking that out. So they invite her in, a couple of snaps. It doesn't take a professional photograph to show this. A couple of snaps of Charlotte Rose, who they mention in the post, so all of their friends and family can see that proud moment of her going in there. Absolutely cute. Now, again, it's not going to set the world on fire. You're not going to go viral with it. Well, you might, but I mean, the whole point is you're getting people, you're brightening up people's day, showing them the news is not all bad, and it really does get people involved in what you're doing. A hospital trust again here with this same kind of deal. A special celebration in the hospital, a volunteer turned 80. And he's smiling, and it's promoting in a roundabout way the value of volunteering, but whilst thanking someone and sharing that little special moment that made people feel in that room, made them feel good. So they thought, right, we'll share it. It is surprising how many of those moments get lost and not captured. And if you can, get your birthday Ernie in if you can. Another example of this is another one of my cheap ones. I feel like Bristol Council could have posted this, but it was in fact Bristol Radio in the BBC. But a really shakily filmed on the iPhone kind of video where they show this intergenerational work that happens. So nursery kids visit the local care home every month to keep them company. But what's brilliant about this, which I can't show you because it's a screenshot, is the actual video. There is an old woman who's there, who's hilarious, and her interactions with the kids are so funny, and the kids are so cute, and this got tons and tons of engagement. And if those things exist, you don't have to, and in fact, please don't hire professionals in to make those videos, because they don't work on social media. You want to feel like one of your audience who's just capturing things in that nice, authentic way, saying, look, this touched me and I think it'll touch you. So there we are. We've gone through 3 of my 12 content types for that easy engagement, types of things that people will respond to. And there are other ones as well. I won't oversell it, but if you want to come onto it, get in touch. And also I've got a Creative Comms newsletter that if you would like to sign up, then have a look at my Twitter or my website, and you'll get inspiring things in your inbox every month.
I'm looking forward to that. I can say I have signed up. I saw you post on LinkedIn earlier this week, I think, and I signed up. So I'm looking forward to that. And that was awesome. Like some of the examples there, they just really hit the spot, and I think we've had a few questions and comments coming in.
Great.
And certainly the back in the day type nostalgia content seemed to resonate with people, which is great to see.
Right.
And it's as you started off your session about the algorithm, obviously a lot of the examples you showed there is they're getting engagement by using some of the techniques that you explained, but it's just so important that people do engage, which is why you have to start off with something to grab them first before trying to get the message across, perhaps like afterwards, further down in the comment or the text, as you were saying, so that they get the chance to see your next post as well, which might also be really relevant for that person. Super interesting.
Funny as well, because people say people are a bit reluctant about the kind of do your promoting in the comments thing, but if you do it, if you don't, then you don't do any promotion, because no one will see your original. It's all very well said, quick and easy to kind of push stuff out, but if no one sees it, then it's not really doing its job.
Exactly. And as you said, you don't want to be broadcasting just sort of one-way communications. It is about the two-way, really getting the engagement, which is awesome. So I'm conscious we're a little bit over time, actually, so apologies for that. I hope if anyone does need to head off now, we'll share the recording with you afterwards. And I'm just going to have a quick look at some questions to see. So here's an interesting one. Okay, so it's more of a comment rather than a question. I don't know what your thoughts are actually, Helen, but love the nostalgia stuff, but GDPR means a lot of our old pics featuring people are now a no-go. Never really thought of that. I wonder if it's previous employees perhaps in that situation. What do you think?
I don't know. I think possibly it's worth speaking with the person in your organisation who owns the archive of those photos, I guess. Actually, that hadn't occurred to me in GDPR in that way, because I think possibly some of the ones that you have, they'll be so old that I think they'd be there must be some kind of fair use or some kind of reasonable application of it. Don't know, actually. I don't know. It's a good comment, and I'll look into if there are any kind of restrictions around that.
Yeah, like obviously with working with a lot of our clients, that's certainly one specifically for sharing images, like related to GDPR. I don't think we've come across that before. So actually, really good question. Yeah.
Yeah, really good. And if
the
questioner has any kind of tips on this, then please share.
Yeah, do share. Another good question. So, what do you do if members of your team, I guess your internal sort of comms or social marketing team, are scared of posting as they think it's too risky or risk some kind of political backlash? So maybe it's in a sort of local gov example.
Yeah, I think a case has to be made. Now, I suppose I would say this, but if you have a good strategy, part of that strategy will be getting buy-in. And it won't be getting buy-in from everyone, because that is absolutely impossible. There'll always be
there's a lot of stakeholders.
Yeah, it'll be getting buy-in from the person who can say yes, and then having to just deal with the other people who are a bit uncomfortable with it. I mean, in where I worked in Monmouthshire Council, we had this, a fairly open approach, like a fairly experiment and learn the lessons. If it doesn't work, then share that around the team. I know that's not necessarily a culture that exists everywhere, but there were still people who would kind of go, you shouldn't have said lush, because I'd always say things like someone had a sunset over Abergavenny, I'd share the picture and say this is lush, and someone would say it was a bit unprofessional or whatever. Anytime I try something new, there'd always be a couple of naysayers, but I'd always have kind of an A4 sheet that says, well, let me just show you what our strategy is. Here are the things that we're trying to achieve and why we're doing it. I get that not everyone will like it, but it seems to be working with the audience that we're trying to reach. And I think it's kind of trying to understand it from their point of view, but show them that you have a strong set of guidelines for why you're doing this. And sometimes that can even be just a tick list. So you can show them a tick list on your wall that says, we always include an image. We use the tone of voice of whatever your tone of voice is or whatever, and say, actually, this is the way we're doing things now, and your feedback's important to us, but we need to try this new way because social media is so important to this organisation. And I think that's the only way you can do it. But I totally feel your pain. There are always a few people who will just, rain on your parade, and sometimes they'll be right. And it won't work, but how are you supposed to know with your audience whether things work or not until you try some new techniques? The alternative is you just keep doing the same thing and it never works, other than, and it's a tough one.
Yeah, it is a tough one. I think you're right. I think you have to try new things, otherwise you'll keep getting the same results that you have been getting. And I think perhaps in your example, using the word lush, which is more of not a slang word, but like, a regional word maybe. And if you can show the proof, show the results, using that kind of language actually gets people to engage more, like with a comment or a like, then it helps you sort of with your side of the thing, like to argue or just to measure really, like, what you're getting from it, I guess, which is super important.
And the big answer to that question is have a strategy. If you've got a strategy, you're doing evaluation, and if you're doing evaluation, you can show someone a really short visual example of how it worked for you, and say, we're just trying this. It's working for us so far. Understand? Thanks very much for your comments. We'll treat them like a stakeholder. Treat them like a member of the public, and kind of that's very important. And I'll pass it on to my team. And thank you very much. But we'll carry on. Confidence is the issue, but you can have a lot of confidence when you have a strategy that's been signed off, that you're clear is trying to meet some very specific objectives.
Cool. And actually, so if you are looking for like a tool to help you manage that kind of thing, where you're trying to make sure that you're not saying using phrases that haven't been sort of approved or signed off, a little bit of self-promotion here with the CrowdControlHQ platform. We have like a validation feature which prevents maybe a member of your team going rogue and posting something, using a word or a phrase which is like not approved. It's a way to like combat perhaps people doing things that they shouldn't be doing.
I keep on writing the word busy, but it comes out busty. And
Right. Yeah, so autocorrect, for example, yeah, it could be useful. um, so I'm just going to quickly scan through. Like, hopefully, Hel, you're okay to keep going for another couple of questions.
yeah.
Let me know. So, do you have any tips for social pages in the catering and hospitality trade? Interesting, particularly from a return on investment point of view, in terms of gaining interactions that could develop into bookings.
Yes, I would say everything we've talked about, nostalgia, so anything about old recipes or old ways of eating or old restaurants or whatever it is that you're doing, anything that makes you smile. Like, so those three things will work, but it'll be a different context, obviously. Return on investment is an interesting one because it's free to use. So your investment is time, and there's a really great speaker who, if you're interested, he does loads of podcasts and videos called Gary Vaynerchuk. But he says,
Gary V.
Gary V, yeah. What's the return on investment of your mother? You put a lot of time into the relationship you have with her. You can't really measure the relationship that you have. And what we're doing on social media is building relationships. Now, I've built a business on the back of social media, and I have a huge amount of relationships. I couldn't tell you exactly what value I've got back, other than all of my business takes place on social media, and that's how I get bookings. So it definitely does have a return on investment, but it's very difficult to measure relationships. All you can do is make sure that people have they like you. If it's you that they're talking to, it's you they'll think of when they need you next. But the likelihood is your customer doesn't need you at exactly the time that you put up a promotional post about the thing that you're selling. So what you want to do is, I'll use this example. If I was a camera shop, I would not sell cameras on social media. I would show people how to make amazing photos, because those people who love to take photos and want to learn more about taking photos will think of me when they need to buy a camera. But the likelihood of them needing to buy a camera at the point where they see my post is quite low. So it's about making sure that you build relationships, really, and that all of these techniques, whether it's public services, private sector, B2B, doesn't matter what it is, it's about connecting with people in a way that it grabs their attention and makes them think about their own identity and themselves, really, rather than your business.
Yeah, nice.
What do they do with the cartoons? So the cartoons are about, subjects that communicators care about. They're not about me and my business, but through getting people to trust that I know what the problems are that they face and that they can have a bit of a laugh with me, they know my style and they know what it is or not. I think that's how you kind of treat social media, really.
Yeah, and I'd say I think from an external point of view, the comms cartoons, like, they work really well, because you do really, I think, wrap up in a nice, like, graphical way, some of the challenges that comms people have. And I think they're awesome. If you haven't sort of seen them or checked them out yet, please do. It's definitely worth 5 minutes of your time, I would say. I'm just aware of the time, so real quick, another couple of questions. Does CrowdControlHQ allow you to add emotions? Example, feeling thankful. I guess it's specifically for Facebook, so we don't, but you can add GIFs and you can add emojis and emoticons and hashtags and many other things that you can post as a way to, like, communicate emotions. But it's a very good question, and maybe something I'll certainly pass over to our product team. Could be a great addition that we can add in. So, Hel, do you have any tips specifically for fostering or adoption pages?
Yes, I suppose off the top of my head, I would say from what are they interested in. So I guess fostering and adoption, you'd want to talk about the issues that they care about. So it would be, does anyone, ask people, put a picture up of a crying kid and kind of say, has anyone got any tips on how to deal with a sleepwalking crier or something? Because we heard a story that someone shared a tip with us and we thought it was really good. Or I don't know. I mean, I suppose I'm not very good because I don't know this. I don't know your audience very well. But what I would say is think about their pain. What problems have they got? And then start asking them questions about how they solve it, or give them a few tips and things that solve that. So again, thinking of it's the comms cartoons model, really. If I can think of something that I know annoys me as a communicator and annoys my audience, then I've got starting point for a conversation with people. So think about the things that bother them quite a lot, or make them feel proud, or make them feel something, and you just got to start talking about that thing, and they'll talk back.
Yeah, awesome. So maybe we make this the last question, just so we can let everyone go, and get back to their day. What are your thoughts on talking to people through the medium of GIFs?
If I could, I'd show you, and I would respond in GIF format.
Yeah.
I think if it's appropriate, it's good. Like, it's appropriate when it's a jokey conversation, when it's a light conversation. Yeah,
light-hearted topic, but
perhaps, it's light-hearted. Yeah. Why on earth not? If it expresses what you're trying to say in a more visual and fun way. I suppose you wouldn't do it with someone who had any form of accessibility issues, because sending a GIF back to a blind person when there's no kind of alt text on it is a pretty bad thing to do. But why not? And especially if someone's having a jokey, light-hearted. I mean, Google sent a GIF as an official press statement once. So someone had asked them about what they, I can't remember what, a reporter had asked them something, and they sent a GIF of a little kid going like that. And yeah, why not? Use your judgment on when the right time to do it is or not. But of course, it's the internet, it's social media, and if it brings a smile to someone's face as well. One of my favourites, and I think it was South Cambridgeshire, shared a GIF where they were given a bit of a "be careful out in the snow" thing, and they used one of my favourite GIFs of all time, which is from Trains, Planes and Automobiles, and it's John Candy going and then Steve Martin going "ooh, cold," and then like a dog with kind of icicles coming out.
Yeah, that's just such a good use case, because it gets it across, doesn't it? Like, but in a light-hearted way. Like, obviously there is a serious maybe undertone about just take care out there, but like not making it too boring, and dull, so that people are more likely to sort of stop in it when they're scrolling through their feed and take a look. Oh, what's that? Yeah,
absolutely. It just catches your eye more than your average bit of text, because our brains can only process text quite slowly, whereas images, I can't remember what there's. I think it's like 0.13 milliseconds or something to be able to see an image.
There we go. So, good step. Okay. So I think, lots of good content today. I mean, Helen, you've been amazing. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks everyone thanks everyone else for joining today. I can see still plenty of people that have stuck around for all the Q&A at the end, which is great. So yeah, we did overrun, but I think it's certainly been worthwhile, because there's a lot of good stuff that we've been talking about. Please, just make sure you're following CrowdControlHQ, following Helen Reynolds on Twitter, and obviously you can find us both on LinkedIn as well, or on Facebook, whatever your sort of network or channel of choice is. Give us a follow. We will be sharing the recording with everyone afterwards, so don't worry about trying to get a hold of it. We'll share it sort of later today. If you've got any other questions, just get in touch. If you want to have a chat with any of us, please just get in touch. So with that, I'd like to say goodbye to everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and hope to see you again soon.
Cheers, bye.
Bye.